Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Women in Tech Forum podcast. I'm Angie Bow, founder and CEO of Women in Tech Forum, and I'm joined today by Amie Close, who is a senior sales manager at Xero. Amie, it's a pleasure to chat to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Angie, and I really appreciate being invited on today.
Thank you. So before we dive into to your career journey at Xero, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what led you to your career at Xero.
Yeah, of course. So I left school at 18. I did my GCSEs and then decided to do 2 years at sixth form, and then decided instead of going to university, I decided to get a modern apprenticeship. And that led me into the car industry. So was always very passionate from a young age. My dad was always into his cars. So really loved that side of things, and was lucky enough to get an apprenticeship within a fleet management company. So I probably worked in the car industry for probably around like 7 or 8 years. And then at my previous company, one of my managers actually headhunted me and brought me over to Xero. So very much at that point, I hadn't heard of Xero before. Obviously, my background had always been in the car industry, but I was definitely looking for something different to do moving forward. And sometimes as well, I think once you're in a career for such a long time, you can definitely get kind of typecast into, when you've gone to a recruitment agency, it will be very much like, right, we need to keep you in that industry. And where I was actually so lucky to be able to be introduced to Xero, and really just haven't looked back since then. And I think it's been absolutely the best company that I've ever worked for.
Thank you. And it's true, even in today's age with squiggly careers and career transitions, sometimes people do pigeonhole us into, where we sort of started out our career journey. And how did you manage the career transition? And how do you manage the ambiguity that can often arrive when we're moving into different industry sectors?
Yeah, of course. I think I was really lucky to join such a fantastic company where I had the sales skills to when I started in my account management role within Xero. And actually, it was very much around you've got those skills and actually how we can empower you, and understanding actually from what that accountancy industry looks like. So it was really lucky around having that support here and that continuous learning as well, because I completely agree, like the unknown is really scary. And when I joined Xero, there was a very much of a mix of people that were selling that were AAT qualified or have come from an accountancy background. And obviously I was just really relying on my sales skills, where actually being able to work and collaborate with people that had got an accountancy background, it was great because we were learning from each other. So you could kind of I could bring that to the table of that, right, let's look at it from this point of view, where actually, when we'd have lots of team debriefs and looking at, how does, what are our blockers? What are we struggling with? And I think that then they could come from the real time view of this is what it was like when we worked in practice. And I think that's where the collaboration really started of you can start to really like push through any of those boundaries that you thought were a problem before.
I love that. And you mentioned the importance of leveraging your transferable skills when you're moving from one industry sector to another. And I think when we really start to analyze our career journey and really look at, okay, what are my transferable skills
Yeah.
and how can I apply them to another industry sector? It can help take out some of that ambiguity and
Yeah,
fear
absolutely.
when we move into something new. So speaking of moving into something new, earlier this year you were promoted from what I call an MMT to an MMM, so managers managing teams to manager managing managers. Um, how did you manage that transition?
So again, like I'm really lucky to have some great leaders around me to help me with that transition. So I was really lucky to be able to be promoted in April into this role from being as leading, direct reports before. And, I won't lie, I was quite nervous around kind of stepping into this role because it is completely different. Like my biggest thing is that I want to manage with my, an open, honest relationship with my team. And I think it was really going in and not having a blanket management approach. It was really going in and spending, I work with 4 amazing leaders, and it was my how I transitioned was to kind of really go in and spend some time with them and their team, and then be able to see, like, how can I help them? How can we work together? That both of that, well, I've got 2 teams in Manchester and 2 teams in Milton Keynes. So it was also really around collaborating and getting everyone working together and really building that open, honest, relationship as well with them. But it's also making sure that they absolutely understand, like, my operating rhythm as well. I think that's really, really important. And I was quite, when I first went in, it was very much, I shared with them what my non-negotiables were. And it was around very much that we work in an open, honest environment, but we make sure that everyone doesn't feel micromanaged, but it's also people feel that, it doesn't matter what team any of our AEs work in, whether that's Milton Keynes or Manchester, they all get the same one-to-ones, the same coaching. So it was really making sure that all of our messaging is the same across the board. That doesn't mean that every manager, has to manage the same in the way that they interact with their team on like a personal level, but it's more around making sure that when we go out, everyone is being treated fairly and getting the same support across all of the board, which we've seen some amazing results, and we've seen some people really flourish around that. And it's also good as well, because you may have people that want to move into other teams, or and it kind of really sets that grounding that I think it really builds I'm really, really passionate about culture. And I think it's so important that, we have, that's when I talk about that non-negotiables, is that when everyone feels there's a fair culture and everyone's treated the same, you absolutely get the best out of people, is definitely been my experience.
I love that. Some great advice there. And I think also being clear on our own non-negotiables, our own operating rhythm is really important, particularly as you rise up through leadership. People look
Yeah.
to you for that strategy, the guidance, but also to being open to collaborating and seeking the feedback of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm a mother myself. I've got a daughter, she's 9. And I also want people to understand that, I am a real human being, and I understand the work-life balance. And I think that's really important as well, because I definitely think when I started out with my working career, and I think COVID has probably had a lot to do with this, where it was, 5 days a week in the office, work from home, especially because I look after an internal team. Now we have the flexibility, but there's also the common ground that we are here to do a job and to do a role. But I understand whether you've got a sports day or you've got a Christmas play or something like that, I'm very much family comes first as well. So, and I feel like when you give people that flexibility, I've always received that here at Zero. So it always makes me work probably more harder, because I feel like actually, like, I get that flexibility. And actually, like, I really, really appreciate that when I need it. But I also know if I need to travel, like, I will always do that as well. So it's definitely getting that balance right.
Thank you for sharing that. And it is a question I get asked a lot, which is, how can you balance a successful career, particularly as a woman in sales, with having a family? And you've talked about the importance of having a flexible work environment, and I like to think of it as work-life integration.
Yeah.
The lines between work and our sort of family life can often blur. What advice would you give to women and men actually, who are considering setting up a family, but are afraid to sort of take that first step because they worry about their career?
Yeah, of course. I think, like, I'm really lucky. I've got a really supportive husband. I think we've been very, I think, kind of very open and honest, where, he's got a full-time, stressful and demanding role, but it's just being, like, really open and organized. I think I was definitely really guilty in the past of trying to do absolutely everything myself. And I think that you just get so overwhelmed really quickly with thinking, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And then you end up dropping the ball, if I'm completely honest, on things. So, like, what me and my husband will do is we'll sit down and we'll look at, like, what are my traveling plans, what's his traveling plans, and also as well, like, if I can't do something at work, like I'll be really open and honest as well and just put my hand up and say, look, I just can't make that work as well. And I think that's what's really empowering about being at Zero, is that I get the opportunity to do that, and it's never frowned upon. And I think it's just around being organized and just being really open and vulnerable sometimes, of just saying, like, putting your hand up when sometimes you're feeling overwhelmed and that you feel that actually I need to either just take a bit of a step back. I need to definitely need to organize. I think one of my worst things is I'm a bit of a control freak as well. So it's just sometimes being able to sit down and be like, right, I've got 4 fantastic leaders below me. Like, what opportunities can I give them as well to step up, to take my place in things? And I think it's it's definitely a real mix. But yeah, I think it's definitely my thing is just holding my hand up when I need help, and just trying to be as organized as possible. I think there becomes a lot of pressure sometimes to be able to turn up to do. I know, I'll get an email from my daughter's school and it'll be 7 or 8 events within work time, and you're thinking, I can't always be at everything as well. So that is when I'm trying to draw on grandparents and just to kind of come and help, which I'm super lucky. So I definitely think it takes an army of people to kind of be able to step up and work, because I think it's just, I only have one daughter, so I absolutely want to make sure that I'm present and there for her. But the biggest thing for me as well, that I want her to look at me and think, my mum goes to work and, she's got a good successful role, she's career driven, so I really want her to see that strong female leader in me as well. That's really important.
I love that. And actually, I think as a leader, whether that's a leader at work or a leader at home as well,
Mm.
is it's really important that we role model the behaviors that we want to see in others. And I think particularly when you look at flexibility, work-life integration,
Yeah.
holding our hands up and being vulnerable and saying, look, actually, I just really can't make it work. I've considered all the options. It's just not possible
Yeah.
on this occasion. Because it gives permission to other people to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and so if we look at sort of, financial services, fintech, tech, there's been a lot of changes
Mm.
in the industry over the years in terms of representation. What are some of the key changes that you've witnessed, and how do you see Zero leading the charge?
Yeah, of course. So I think we're really lucky at Zero. We've got a lot of strong female leadership. So Leanne, our sales director, obviously Kate Hayward, our MD, we are, I think, and obviously Sekinda. It's really great to be able to see that in the workplace, because I definitely think that when I first started, it wasn't kind of always like that. And I think it's really empowering as well to be able to see those strong female leaders that have all got children. They're all balancing, their home life and work as well. And I think it's just it's really inspiring. And I definitely find it inspiring for myself to be able to see those strong female leaders. And I think it's great, because I think for the industry, it gives people a perspective, because obviously for Zero, our focus is on small businesses. There'll be lots of small businesses which are female run, and actually it really shows the empowerment of that, you can make it work. And yeah, I just think it's just really inspiring.
Thank you. Some great words of advice there, and some great role modeling from the top down at Zero. Amie, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your career journey and your words of wisdom for all of the women and families out there. So thank you for joining us.
Brilliant. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.